School board. Kids are performing and then Catherine's husband is doing a speech.
It's not recording here.
No, it's recording there.
Whatever you want to do. Bank School District's Board of Directors. Regular session. If everyone could rise for the flag.
Can you all help us get started with it?
Yeah.
All right, whenever you're ready, start us off.
Yeah. Okay, we'll proceed to 1.3 for roll call. If you could please stay present when I call your name. Marissa. Will. Present. Leslie. Present. Dan. Present. And I'm present. Thank you. Move on to 1.4, public recognition. Bank School District Board of Directors welcomes the public to our May 8th regular business meeting. The board appreciates your participation in the education of our students and welcomes your continued engagement. With that, I'll move to 1.5, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve the agenda.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Move on to 1.6, our Banks Elementary School choir.
Evening, this is the Banks Elementary Choir. I'm Denise Smith, the music teacher from the elementary school. This is our choir. It's an extracurricular after-school activity, and I was thrilled this year to have 50 kids sign up. They couldn't all be here tonight. Some of them had some games to be at, but we're so excited to share with you tonight what they've been working on for the last couple of months. We're going to be singing 2 songs. The first one is called "It's All Good," and the second one is called "It Starts With Me." Ready?
Everyone come back. Thank you.
You're out. Now the board will sing.
Yeah. Okay, okay, 1.7, Banks High School leadership. Yeah, perfect.
All right, for the people who don't remember or haven't seen me in a while, Trevor Hasker is the ASU president for 2022-23. It's really weird saying that because this will probably be my last time coming in here alone. Next time it'll be introducing the next ASU president. So there's been quite a few events that have been happening over the past month. A couple of the really notable ones have been Puppy Day. I'm certain a lot of you guys have already heard about it. It's put on by the both Sam Womack and I were the ones who orchestrate it. It was a day for all the students at the high school to come in and see 5 really cute puppies. Went all day, and I'd say it was a complete success. A lot of people left that with smiles on their faces. So went really well. As I stated already, elections are coming up. Forms are already turned in, and we should be doing that by the next week, which means that this is it for me, pretty much. Fun. Thirdly, can't forget, prom was on Saturday.
Yes.
7:10 at Great Room in Beaverton. Great job to Roxy Russell for putting it together. She did an amazing job and it went beautifully. Also, congratulations to Grayson Voss and Annie Nevis for being the prom king and queen. Any questions?
So, looking back on your tenure as president, what has been good about it and what would you have changed?
I'd say that with it being out of COVID a little more, there was definitely more school events and ways for us to participate, but we're still not all the way back. So I just wish I'd been a little more involved. Plus, it was really busy for me, which is another thing that I forgot to mention. As of this afternoon, AP tests are officially over. Finally. A lot of students took them. A lot of people took 2 or even 3. So it's good to have them over so we can, I wouldn't say coast in to the end of the year, but be on a little bit more. Yeah. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thanks, no questions, but just thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to recognitions, 2.1. All of that. Yeah. Okay. So resolution 2223, May 1st, acknowledges May 8th through the 12th, the 2023 Staff Appreciation Week in the Banks School District. Whereas our country's future depends upon providing quality education to all students, and whereas teachers and support staff mold future citizens through the guidance and education, and whereas teachers, support staff fill many roles and listeners, explorers, role models, motivators, and mentors, and whereas teachers, support staff build relationships with students that enable young people to believe in their own potential. And whereas teachers, support staff work long beyond the normal school day to instruct, grade, and prepare their students. And whereas our community recognizes and supports its teachers and support staff in educating the children of this community. Now therefore, we, the board, the members of the board of directors for the Bank School District hereby declare our appreciation to our staff and acknowledge May 8th through the 12th, 2023 to be Staff Appreciation Day. Be it further resolved that we urge all members of the community to join us in recognizing the dedication and hard work of these individuals. By resolution of the Board of Directors this 8th day of May, 2023.
I would like to make a motion that the Board of Directors approves resolution 22-23-May-01, designating May 8th through May 12th as staff appreciation.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously.
We have a few other recognitions that'll come up throughout.
Okay, moving on to audience comments. So we have one that was submitted,
If you want to read your intro.
oh, all right, yeah.
You bet.
The meeting will now be open to receive public comment. The board appreciates community members sharing information during public comments. The board will listen and possibly ask clarifying questions, but generally will not comment on information we hear from the audience. However, following the meeting, the chair, vice chair, and superintendent will together determine the appropriate response. The response may be in a public way, a private way, or the meeting will be added to future board meetings or work session agenda. Please note the speakers will have 5 minutes to express their thoughts.
Thank you. So, board, we have 5 in-person public comments. We had 1 submitted electronically, which I request to have read. I'll read it. I'll just say, I'll read it last to keep the flow going. So, we're going alphabetical order. So we have Jared, you're up first, followed by Jody. I'll keep the time. Yeah, that's right. It's empty, right?
Yeah. All right, tonight I'd like to make sure everyone's aware of this 48-page guide that the Oregon Department of Education published in January of this year called Supporting Gender Expansive Students, aka Transgender Students. I doubt that all members of the school board have read it, but you should, because it's what ODE is expecting out of the district. And BSD should have a written policy regarding what it will and won't do regarding this topic. On page 6, it says that this guidance is designed to be used by school boards, administrators, and other members of the educational community to assist with the development of school procedures and district policies related to transgender and gender expansive students. So ODE is expecting you to base your policies off of this guide. Page 4, it says, it is our responsibility to move beyond mere tolerance and inclusion toward respectful, affirming, and celebratory school communities where all students belong and succeed. So we're not just supposed to provide an environment of tolerance and non-judgment. We are supposed to celebrate gender ideology according to the Oregon Department of Education. On page 8, this is where it goes off the rails for me. As soon as a student asserts their gender identity, the school should begin treating the student in alignment with their gender identity. This may involve discussing with the student and possibly their parents or caregivers, meaning that it's not a mandate, it's just a possibility that you would talk to a parent or caregiver. On page 13, it says, ODE encourages schools to work with students and their families as appropriate, because I guess sometimes it wouldn't be appropriate to work with families, to create individualized support and safety plans. Schools and districts should designate 1 or more staff members on each campus who can assist students with obtaining a support and safety plan. On the same page, it says, no student should be forced to come out to anyone before they are ready, including their family. On page 14, it reads, students who are not publicly asserting their authentic gender identity may have privacy concerns about students, school staff, community members, or their families finding out before they are ready to share their identity more widely. Parent and family support is the goal when supporting gender expansive students, but may not be possible in all situations. Schools should refer to their current policies when there may be a safety concern. To the extent possible, schools should refrain from revealing information about a student's gender identity, even to parents, caregivers, etc., etc. It also says on 14, school districts should work closely with the student and, if appropriate, because I guess sometimes it's not appropriate according to ODE, the student's parent or caregiver in devising a supportive plan regarding the confidentiality of the student's gender identity. On page 15, this goes way off the rails for me. If a school opts not to notify a student's parent or caregiver for any of the above safety reasons, the school may wish to consider supporting the student by providing access to another supportive adult. Basically, let's replace the parent with someone that does agree with gender ideology. Another supportive adult the student can rely on throughout the school's response process, such as a counselor, psychologist, et cetera, et cetera. So I would like the following questions answered in writing, and Brian, I appreciate you've been very proactive in answering questions via email. Will the school district commit to always informing parents and caregivers about a student's gender confusion and any subsequent discussions with BSD staff and external organizations, as well as any support plans in planned care? I would like to see a written policy for how BSD plans to accommodate gender confused students. As an example, I have a 4th grade girl. Let's say next year she tells her teacher on a few occasions that she feels like a boy. What will BSD's course of action be in that case? What if the person in the scenario were a 7th grade boy or a 10th grade girl? If I don't see a written policy regarding this topic, I will assume that BSD administration and school board are aligned to ODE's published guide and will work from there.
That's fine.
Parents and community members, please download and read this guide. When you combine this guide with House Bill 2002 that just passed the Oregon House last week, which lowers the age of parental consent for gender affirming care to 15, you have an ODE telling districts to hide gender confusion from parents and a legislative body potentially making it legal for 16 to 18-year-olds to chemically and medically sterilize themselves without parental consent. Call or email all Oregon senators now and ask them to put a stop to this. I encourage the board to stand up for common sense and push back against what ODE is proposing you do to children. Create an alliance with other common sense school districts and tell ODE, we will provide a tolerant, non-judgmental environment, but we won't push or encourage gender ideology on our children. As I mentioned last school board meeting, the tip of the spear for pushing and encouraging gender ideology is the public school system. Throwing your hands up and saying you can't do anything is an easy excuse. Thank you. Yeah.
Well done, Jeremy.
So specifically, if you were in that situation,
What situation?
the one you specifically described, a child, get your words not quite right, a child expresses gender confusion.
Right,
So scenario, they approach their teacher
Right.
or some administrator or someone in this, in their environment
Right.
and express that.
yeah.
What would you have that person do?
I would have the person contact the parent immediately and work with the parents through that situation.
Okay, so let's say that this is midway through the year, the student, the teacher's been observing the student like they do.
Mhm.
Kind of trying to assess how things are going, how it's working. They've observed the students seems to be very emotionally, unstable. Maybe crying often, or whatever that might be.
Okay,
But something that the person, an adult might sense could be indicative that they're upset.
okay,
And maybe even go so far as to they come to school typically in really dirty clothes, dirty hair, dirty face, and they always come for school for breakfast in the morning to school.
okay.
If that's what they saw, the picture they saw of this person coming to talk to them, would you have them handle it any differently?
So just because a kid is unkempt and eats breakfast at school means we should keep things a secret from parents?
I ask you what you would do.
Parents should always be involved in things like this. In my opinion, the school has no right to keep things a secret from parents.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have a question, Ron?
Well, I was just wondering about, there's a lot of abuse that happens in homes. A lot of it can be associated with transgender or sexual, identity. So does the school district have any responsibility for the safety of the kids if
Yeah,
they're exposed to situations where this has been expressed in the classroom, but there's a fear that there may be abuse in the home?
aren't there avenues for the district to get the authorities involved when there's suspect of abuse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then why-
That's the.
why
direction we want to
should-
go.
Gender confusion or a kid that wants to transition their gender be kept secret? If there's suspect of abuse, let's use the avenues that have already been established to take care of that
So
abuse.
that means you wouldn't go to the parents, you go to the authorities.
Well, in your case, you said a kid is even, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
you wouldn't go to the parents, you go to the authorities.
Well, but then the authorities would contact the parents. You're not keeping the parents out of the loop. If there's abuse suspected,
That person.
Yeah.
You're advocating a policy which subjects the people in the district to certain actions that we require.
Mhm,
You said under one scenario that you would have them contact the parents.
right,
So he presented a little different one.
Right.
Where it appeared that it was, so, and I'm just trying to be clear, so you would say that person should then contact them.
if there's suspected abuse, of course. Yeah.
But not tell the parents, or contact the authorities.
What? Well,
No, the authorities will contact the parents.
That person.
Yeah. Okay, so.
Yes.
Thank you, Gary, for your
It-
public comment.
Under no circumstances should a gender transition be kept from parents. That's what I think. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have Jody and then Katie.
Okay, before I start, I just want to introduce my friend Terhas and tell you that she signed up to speak, but she's not able to speak. So she's asked me to speak for her, so I will take 10 minutes instead of 5. And two things. Then Terhas can come stand by me and I will speak for her. And that will be her 5 minutes, next to my 5 minutes. And if anyone has a problem with this, well, then you, in the next work session, you guys can work out a policy. Whereby someone who is a second language speaker, who is unable to say what she would like to say, is not allowed to have someone who loves her.
Jody,
And is
can you
articulate.
contact District to see if we can have.
I'm going to speak, Ron,
For 5
to
minutes.
2 issues. Then when you call Terhas, I will speak for another 5 minutes. That is how it's gonna go. So I would also like to intro my boss.
Okay. So you got 5 minutes. Go.
See, no, you just ask whether I'm the boss. I'm not the boss, but the people, are the boss.
I'm the boss
Okay.
too.
So
All right,
that's right.
talk for 5 minutes and then sit down, please.
Okay, and then I will speak with Terhas. The reason I need more than 5 minutes is I have 2 really important things, and we never have enough time. So I would like to introduce you to Ia and Samson. This is my white daughter and my black son. And I would like to, before you make the predictable attack, that I'm using my beloved ones as props. I'd like to challenge you to consider that you are, what you're actually saying in that Terhas doesn't think for herself, or so ignorant that she doesn't know she's being used by me, or any of those things. So just drop the idea that this is anything other than me showing you my son, my sister, and my daughter. And the reason I bring them here in person tonight is precisely because I think it matters for you to see them. I want you to look at these people and imagine loving them as I do. And then listen as I read something that one of these precious children brought home from school. Okay, one of these 2, and I'm not going to tell you which one or when it happened, because I'm not interested in blaming the teacher. Okay, just like the flamer book, it's not about the teacher whose intentions are good. It's about the guardrails that this school district and this school board has not placed on our classroom materials. This story tracks, it's related to, they were doing character study. There's a little black girl, and she talks about how she goes, there's no preface here. It drops into the story. It talks about how Willow goes to the library. She loves to go to the library. There are these beautiful books, and there's this precious, amazing book here on the shelf, the best she's ever seen. She's longing to read it. Okay, so Willow decides to take the book, and when she got to the counter, Willow noticed a new librarian who was wearing a gray sweater buttoned all the way up to her chin. The librarian angrily glared at Willow with dark eyes and a stiff face. To Willow, it didn't seem like she even knew what a smile was. "You can't check this book out," the librarian said as she quickly snatched it behind the counter. Willow's heart dropped. No one so menacing had ever worked at the library, so Willow was confused. It felt like time stopped as she tried to figure out what was happening. "I check out books every day," she thought, "and I always bring them back in good condition. Could I have done something wrong?" "I'm sorry, ma'am," she said. "My name is Willow Clark. Do I have a library fine to pay?" "No," the librarian said curtly. "New books are only for white children," she said. "Your kind can go over there." She pointed to a section of books in the corner with a few books that were dilapidated and ripped. Some didn't even have covers. A sign hung above it that said "colored" in thick black writing. Don't ask why. Again, the librarian snarled. Now, I ask you, can you hear me? This is poison. It is poison to the heart of my white daughter, and it is poison to the heart of my Black son. Listen to me. I want you to understand, this is not about history. It's not about teaching it properly. It's not about careful bringing together of our children to understand our American experience. This is about division, and it is about putting into our children's minds things that have not even been there. And I'll tell you that my Samson, he said, "Oh, I hated that one." And I said, "Oh yeah, sweetheart, why?" And he's like, I don't know. And I said, "Well, do you think that you would ever run into someone like that in the library?" And he said, "I don't know." My Samson has never thought that before in his life. It has never crossed his mind. With his Ethiopian parents who don't come from the racial narrative of this country, it's never crossed his mind that some white person could say to him that he would not be allowed to do something because he's Black. Okay, so if I need to pause here, I'm just going to say, school board, this issue is not going away. And I am not going to quit until we create a school district in which our children of all colors are safe from the poisonous and soul corrupting ideas that are driving the narrative on race in this country. My babies are too precious to me, as is every child in our care. Now, when it's time for me to speak in for Tirhas, then I will do so. I assume my 5 minutes are up.
Just Jody, I have a question for you. The last board meeting, you made a comment about finding a book in our high school. And that, if I understood your public comment, that book was removed.
In the high school?
Yeah, did I understand your comment correctly, that you removed the book from the high school?
No, you misunderstood that. What I said is that it was checked out and never returned.
Okay. Okay.
Steve and Travis.
Hi, everyone. So for those of you who don't already know me, my name is Katie Savage, and my husband Mark and I have 2 daughters enrolled here in the Banks School District. We have been a part of the Banks Committee for going on 12 years now. Our youngest is currently enrolled in 6th grade, and our oldest Grace is 16 and currently on home placement due to complications created by her 22q syndrome. I'm here this evening to share a recent situation that happened a couple weeks back at a home middle school track meet at the high school stadium involving Grace, myself, and another mobility impaired woman and her husband. It had a profound impact on my family and how we currently view our school district's lack of concern for one of the most vulnerable groups of our community, the mobility impaired and disabled. I believe the story needs to be heard by the school board, and that's why I'd like to share it. Grace and I had been looking forward all week to getting out of the house as a family to support her little sister. Due to her ongoing health struggles, Grace doesn't have much time or energy for social outings. She didn't get the typical middle school or high school experience, and therefore as a family, we didn't ever get the chance to attend many events together. The very first time we've been to that part of the school grounds was that Wednesday, because Grace was never well enough to go before. Her health has been favorable as of late though, yay, a real first. So we finally feel confident getting her back out and about in the community to participate in social activities. She absolutely loves to cheer her sister on in all her various sports and enjoys feeling like she's just a part of the Braves community, even though she can't physically attend school. Just the week before this, we had a successful trip traveling to watch the away track meet. The school grounds at that school were great in terms of accessibility for mobility devices, and all went smoothly. It was a wonderful experience for our family to be all together cheering little sister on after years and years of one of us always staying home with Grace when she was unable to leave the house. On this particular afternoon, I loaded Gracie up in her wheelchair and pushed her to the track meet because we live so close. As I got closer, I saw the ramp leading up to the stands and assumed this meant it was wheelchair friendly. Most schools these days are, right? Which was awesome because the weather was looking a bit iffy and I wanted Grace to stay warm and dry, obviously. By the way, it did end up hailing. So we proceeded up the ramp and into the stadium seating to get situated. To make a long story short, we got stuck with another wheelchair user behind us with nowhere to turn around in the narrow walkway and no through exit. Kids and unfortunately parents were shoving their way through us and past us to get to where they were headed. No one offered to help us despite the amount of people witnessing our struggles to extricate ourselves from the situation we found ourselves stuck in. I ended up having to turn Grace around in front of the middle set of stairs with her wheels hanging out over the top step just to get turned around, push her back out of the stands to a safer steady. Fortunately, my mama bear mode kicked in and I managed to finally get people to move out of the way so both sets of us could make it out unharmed. I like to refer to this whole chaotic incident as a near miss for those familiar with OSHA, because that's exactly what it was. Luckily, it ended up being only humiliating and no one got physically hurt, just frustrated, embarrassed, and a bit rattled. So after getting back out to the wooden platform attached to the stadium, I started looking around both for signs of some sort of designated handicapped or mobility impaired seating, and for signs warning that the bleachers were not suitable for mobility devices to enter. Certainly there would be something because Bay School District cares more than that about this important group of kids and community members, right? Nope. To my huge disappointment and shock, I found neither. Nothing at all. Just a lonely ramp leading to one very dangerous and unacceptable situation, like cows to slaughter. And did I mention it that it proceeded to dump hail? Also, that wooden deck seating area that was added on is a poor excuse for accessibility if that's what it was intended when it was built. There are 0 designated wheelchair viewing areas with companion seating. There's a railing that cautions against leaning against it. The wood surface gets slippery in the rain, and not to mention the lack of cover for some of the most vulnerable in our community. This is not acceptable in the year 2023. I had no idea there was no accessible seating under cover, and the lack of signage led to a serious safety issue. There should be a safe designated area that is at least equivalent to what the rest of our community is afforded. The complete disregard Bay School District is showing for those who are mobility impaired is absolutely embarrassing and heartbreaking and not acceptable. I'm fully aware that building a safer stadium and updating sporting facilities to make them more accessible for all is still a way out. There is an unfortunate lack of available funding and various parts of the more outdated portions of our school grounds need prioritizing. I get it. However, there are still efforts that could be made to make it safer for all in the meantime. And that's what I'm here tonight to bring your attention to. I urge the school board to take a closer look at what our embarrassing lack of accessible facilities and school grounds might be conveying to people like my daughter and families like ours, that we simply don't matter and our kids don't deserve to experience equity. Grace is not the only student in this district with mobility impairments. There are others who would greatly benefit from more effort and attention into this matter, and each and every single one of them is just as important as the physically abled. Thank you for listening to my family story tonight, for all you already do to make the Banks Brave community better for all. There is so much progress in this area that still needs to be done.
Give you that as time.
Time, okay,
Yeah, thank you so much. If you have more comments, you can always submit them in writing.
nothing important, yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your
Thank you.
comments. Thank you. Travis and, Tier. That's correct.
Thank you for seeing me. Apologize for interrupting earlier. That's what I'm calling her there. Happy Appreciation Week. Appreciate you, your educators as well. Pretty much every staff member, I consider to be educators here, from the cooks to the custodians to the teachers as well. They all set examples for our kids. There's been times where I've lost my patience sometimes with some members of this community, and I've just thrown up my hands and said, screw it, let's leave. And my wife has said, no, we got to stay here. And I'm going to say, why we got to stay here? I said, well, because of PAX, because of my son PAX. And well, why? Because of the schools, And I said, I want to leave. I want to leave. Travis Schlegel wants to leave. Schlegel Hall down here that we recently had a political rally at. My cousins painted it. You've been here 12 years. My family's been here since 1877. There's a reason that my kid is here. And it's because of the teachers here. And to hear people throwing the word equity around like it's some nasty, dirty word, it's ridiculous. It's the latest boogeyman that you hear. It'd be funny if it wasn't so sad that people don't know the difference between equity and equality. They're both important. But we're gonna get rid of equity. We're gonna make everybody equal. Well, guess what? If everybody was equal, then my kid wouldn't have made it past the second grade. My son is a thriving, beautiful sixth grader right now. But he needs someone to hold his hand when he crosses the street. Nobody else's sixth grader does, as far as I know that. That doesn't make him any less of a person. He learns US history. If you don't want your kid to learn US history, then that's fine. Doesn't have to be taught, it's not gonna kill you. Do we need to make sure our kids are having appropriate books in the library? Sure. No problem with that. We have mechanisms in place, mechanisms fail. Mechanisms need to be tweaked and adjusted. Doesn't mean we need to be following every internet conspiracy theory that happens to come in of the world. I'm wearing this hat today because about 35 years ago in August, I swore an oath that I have not been relieved of to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. Part of that Constitution is the 14th Amendment. People like to talk about the first, they like to talk about the second, but then it gets a little fuzzy after that. 14th ensures equal protection under the law for every United States citizen. Every United States citizen. There is no distinction between black, white, gay, straight, trans. No, you don't. My final question for the board, you can choose to answer it or not. I'm a parent. I'm a parent. I show up for school. I'm gonna pick my kid up for school. I've got alcohol in my breath. Hey, give me my kid. Yeah, I'm gonna take my kid home. Now I'm the parent, right? So it's your responsibility to give me my kid. Is that appropriate? Is that an appropriate situation for you to give me my kid? You send my kid home to school, or home from school, and the next day, that kid shows up with bruises. Shows up with this, that, and the other thing. And says, I told my dad that I like to play with dogs. And now he's mad at me. Do you think that's an appropriate situation to maybe get that dad involved? Do we even have any trans kids in the school? Is that a problem that needs to be addressed at this moment?
Travis,
Or is that just
Travis, you are.
just a red scare?
You can submit a comment. We have curiosity, just for anyone, need accommodations for public comments or anything, if you could let us know ahead of time, just so we can scan.
Yeah, we
Okay.
have translators that we can bring.
No, you can't.
We do have access to translators.
There's no way.
My name is Sirahas, but I'm not good with English.
That's okay.
I wish I can speak English good. I can tell you many stories, but I can't. I will tell the sister help me. I like to live in this area, but I have some feeling that I want to give in to speaking you guys.
Thank you. So, second subject, Tirhas and I would like to address is the so-called planned racist acts involving a group of boys at the high school. First of all, I want to make the clear, absolutely unambiguous statement that we utterly and categorically condemn all forms of bigotry and racism. Okay, to be clear. Second, what we would like to talk about is, well, I would just like, what we would like to talk about is the subject as a whole, right? We're not going to go into the details and the questions about what happened. But what we wanted to share with you was a conversation that I had with my brother-in-law, who's Black, and his perspective on it, and then how that relates to the school district. So we had a very deep conversation with this man, and his first, I want to give you the things that he said in response. He said, first of all, I don't speak for all Black people. But secondly, I understand that this was not an inherently racist act or motivated by racism. Rather, it was about kids saying forbidden things, doing the most forbidden thing, and the thing that will cause shock and cause, a response. It was thoughtless and careless. And he said, the boys need to recognize how deeply hurtful their behavior would have been and take responsibility for making amends. But the problem is that in this school environment, there is not deep dialogue about race issues. Okay, so school board, this is the second thing I want to lay at your feet. There's the material that was in our children's classroom. And what happened with these boys only happened here because you and we have not created a school community committed to creating a safe environment in which our children can talk deeply about difficult things. Terhas's son, Simon, and my son want to talk about race issues, but race issues can only be discussed in one way. Only one narrative is acceptable. Questioning assumptions is not allowed. And our children are rebelling against that, as they should. Simon is rebelling against that. Owen is rebelling against that. Other children I know are rebelling against that. They are tired of the unending focus on race essentialism, and the way it's driving them apart. They are tired of it. Instinctively, they want what's actually good. My son, Terhas's son, Simon, that is the freedom to think, to speak, and to come together rather than be driven apart by these issues. So what are we asking for? Same thing I've been asking for 3 years, school board. That's deep dialogue as a community. And we want learning standards and curriculum that are pro-human, not just anti-racist. We will not accept the status quo or the accepted narratives on race because they are poisonous. Terhas believes this. I believe this. They are hurting our children. They are dividing us and dividing our children. And instead, we insist and will be unyielding in our insistence that this school board and this district will create that safe space in which our children can learn, in which they can explore, in which they can make mistakes like the high school boys did, seek forgiveness from each other and deeper understanding of each other, and then be equipped to step into their lives and into our society as agents of healing, reconciliation, and love. That is what Terhas wants. That is what I want. And school board, it's the responsibility of our school board, our district, to choose curriculum, especially, that will facilitate that. I've brought to you suggestions, specific suggestions, and I've been ignored. And it's not okay. It's not acceptable. And it also is not acceptable that we simply just go on as we are. Thank you.
What's the question? This was her speech that you translated?
No, I didn't translate her speech. I told you in my words.
Oh, I'm
But
sorry.
just
Super. No,
Yeah, those are my words. Of
I
course,
thought
they're-
you were the translator for her. This was her speech.
No, she
This is
doesn't.
her.
She did. Carissa. No, you are being disrespectful and I want you to listen to me. Terhas, and I talk deeply. I do not have to have Terhas give me a speech and then I translate it, because I don't speak to, because I speak, don't
All right, all right,
speak
let's just
to
move on.
Gdynia.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So we have one public comments. Submitted electronically, asked to be read, Eddie Prax it earlier, it was less than 5 minutes, like, okay, that way to answer to the board. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board. I am traveling for work and ask that my statement be read. My name is Dan Williams. I have two kids in the district. One is at the middle school, one is at the high school. I trust your door. I ask for your patience as I reiterate a request that you have no doubt heard before. A request that given space to contemplate, I trust you would always be top of mind, but as of late, I fear it's being set aside. A request that you listen to parents. Public comment at school board meetings is a great venue to hear from parents, but it tends to have selection bias. It tends to have participation from those with the highest amounts of time and energy to participate, not necessarily those with the highest need for someone to hear them. No doubt there are accommodations, interventions, programs, and actions the board could consider, but that consideration requires listening for and listening to the parents in the district who are otherwise speaking loudly with their silence. I am fortunate to be able to engage in public comment and advocate for my kids, but there was a time when I was not. In my case, I am the father of a disabled child. She at times required complicated medical interventions that kept us in the hospital for multiple nights. It is only in the relent of those hard times that affords me the privilege to offer public comment to engage in advocacy. I know there are parents exhausted from socioeconomic disadvantages, contending with English as a second language, managing their work schedule, are single parents, and are taking care of their aging parents that keep public engagement to a subset of parents. It is difficult to speak out and address the practical needs of the full spectrum of students in the midst of those who have the time and energy to advocate for ideological preferences. It is difficult to talk about disability in predominantly able-bodied spaces. It is difficult to talk about being Black in a predominantly white banks. It is difficult to talk about representation of all identities in a space where typical identities are fully represented. I learned a hard lesson when I became the father of a disabled child. Most people do not want to hear my story because it is too uncomfortable. When you describe to someone else what to them would be their worst fear if that happened to their child, you can see on their face, this is the last thing that I want to think about. As a school board member, you do not have that luxury. When serving the full public, you do not have the luxury to have someone's pain or struggle be the last thing you want to think about. You can be certain that the last thing many typical parents want to think about would be among the quietest topics of public comment. A mindset that seeks out accommodations and opportunities for all students is equity, and equity enables all students to excel. As a family that is typical in some way and atypical in others, my hope is that the board finds the dexterity and the conviction to serve all of the above. So I ask that you find channels through teachers, the community, and other outreach to always keep the focus on maximizing support and practical harm reduction as much as possible. Because life will let you go hungry, but school will offer you a meal. Life will clearly watch you fail, but school will pick you up and help you try again. Life is not fair. School prepares you to succeed despite life challenges. Again, I was submitted electronically and is in your packet for review.
For that, we'll move on to presentations.
Well, I'm first again on that one. We'll switch my notes. So, I just want to start out by addressing the board for what we started off with our educator thanks. We have an amazing team of educators here, and a lot of times you can hear me slip up and say teachers. I say teacher appreciation week, and I don't mean it just to people, in the classroom by the desk. I think every single human here is a teacher. In fact, I think every community member is a very good teacher. I think kids learn from us and learn from our discourse and notice things that we may not always give them the credit for noticing. I do want to call a few out though. I get here a little bit after 7 in the morning. I can't quite make it here, but usually that's a lie. Exclusively, the first car I see is Kim's. She's our middle school secretary. I don't think I beat her here a day yet. And then I turn the corner and I see Dale's pickup truck already parked here, and out there somewhere is Dale and Corbin getting the campus ready. What I don't see is our night crew who are cleaning up the night before and just making sure this is the most welcoming space in Japan. I try to get into the schools every day, whether it's just past the hallway or if I'm lucky enough to maybe even get inside a classroom. And I just do teacher counselors and instructional assistants just doing that all. Then after school, I see like activities, like we have like robotics, right? We saw our choir, we have more athletics than I can count. We have community events around here. This place is about 24/7, right? This place it's not just a school campus, right? It is an embedded piece of our community, quite literally almost every hour of every day. I wanna give a special thanks to those involved with our contract review. Some people might refer to that as bargaining, but, we wisely changed the name. Called it contract review this year because we didn't, bargaining kind of implies a back and forth, maybe you're trying to sneak out so you can squeeze the most out of the other side. But I think this year, thanks to a lot of people who I'll name in a minute, we were able to really look at what the needs of our staff were. We did the absolute best we could under the, realities of frankly, an economic situation that's pretty unknown and come up with some agreements. Especially thankful to Ashley Thomas, president of the, Banks Education Association. Her co-president, Pat Marley, and just for their leadership, their support, the way they led their team, the way they helped interact with us. I'd like to give special thanks to Will and Dan on the board who served on our team, who just, really appreciate your leadership, your guidance to that process. We were able to reach a tentative agreement, which, calling it tentative, is that be formally ratified and then approved by the board, but I think we're getting close at least. I don't think the process can be described anything but collaborative, and can certainly only be described as timely, especially compared to many of our surrounding districts. So I just appreciate all of you. Coming up pretty soon, we have two amazing educators who are going to get recognized individually by Mr. Penson. I might even get a couple teary eyes out of him, but I don't know, we'll see. I promised you at the last meeting a little bit of an update on our instructional materials, but I want you to think all the way back just about a year ago when we first met. I said two things in my interview. Well, that's a lie. I said another thing. But I want to remind you of two of them. You all, I had been working in a school district of about 40,000 kids, and then before that, a school district of 20,000 kids. But way before that, a school district of, a few thousand kids, much similar banks in here. You're like, well, how come you're, wanting to kind of go a little bit of a circle to a smaller district? I don't know if you remember this, but I said, in a town like this, well, I believe it's true everywhere. I believe it's true in Portland. But I know it's true here, is that the district is the soul of the community. And I think if we listen to the comments tonight, we're talking about stuff that touches people in the soul. We're not just talking about like calculus, which travel right to the technical, but we're talking about a lot more. You also asked me what it takes to have a district be fully inclusive and to what does equity mean in a school district? And I kind of gave you, there's no Brian Seeker's 3 Ps, I guess. I don't know if anyone else uses these, but I said we have to look at policy, we have to look at practice, and we absolutely have to talk to people. You can't do any without the other. I'm going to give you some quick updates on policy and practice, and then I'm just going to talk about the people part of it. Real quick on policy. Our policy is pretty solid. When we follow what is written down, and this is for materials, when we follow what is written down in the policy, the system works. Especially like look at the complaint, right? There's some holes in the policy, but generally speaking, we had a complaint. The complaint was addressed, and thank you, we're better for it. What is missing a little bit from policy though is we talk about basic instructional materials versus supplemental instructional materials. We really don't define the difference between the two, and we don't really say what their expectations for use are. So it's kind of hard to demonstrate to your community, like this is the core instructional materials that we're going to use if we really haven't like adopted them all or we haven't defined what they're going to be. So we need to attend to that. And you'll get into proposed policy update for me about before next year. It's time. When we look at the ARs of the policy, we really don't have, we talk about a selection process, but we don't really have criteria. So like, it's great that we have a group of people who can select materials and then of course also audit and review materials. But we don't really have a criteria of which we're going to measure them against, and then it just sort of becomes opinion. Certainly educated opinion, but there's no sort of standard to look at. We need those criteria. The criteria will need to include at least 3 things. One thing will be some adherence or reference to a learning program. So to learning standards. The materials have to support learning standards. Math materials have to be focused on math, and so forth to all of our subjects. They all have to be representative. Meaning every single student should be able to see themselves in the curriculum, every single student should be able to see others in the curriculum, and every single student should be able to interact with perspectives other than what they most is their norm. That's a paraphrase of Dr. Bishop, about 40, 50 years ago, came up with an analogy called, windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors. That's what I think about a lot. But they also have to be age appropriate. You know, we've been talking about books actually since before public schools were a thing in the United States. We've been talking about which books to have. Turns out with movies, you figured it out pretty quickly. I don't know why it's tricky for us with kids. In the year 2000, this board adopted policy IIABB and said, you know what, most of what we're gonna do is, GPG and maybe some PG-13 movies. We said, if we're gonna use an R-rated movie, not only does the administration have to approve that it's a good idea related to those learning standards, we have to notify parents it's gonna happen. And if parents don't think that's a good idea for their kid to watch an R-rated movie, you have to give them an alternative assignment. There's no reason we can't conceptually think about all of our materials in the same way. The concept of age does not need to go away, even though our national discourse right now on books is becoming a bit more challenging. But I just want to be abundantly clear, and because I don't want to. It's easy to fall into a trap. Representation and age appropriateness are not mutually exclusive. So just because we have a book that's intending, or any material that's intending to increase representation and happens to be not age appropriate, does not mean we can't find an age appropriate book that demonstrates representation across the great diversity that makes up the United States and makes up this world. So that I just want to be clear, that's not what I'm suggesting. Also in policy, or in AR, we have a material challenge process. It's pretty strong as it stands. Like I said, it worked pretty good so far. We just need to clean up policy a little bit. Is that a decision-making team? Is it are they recommending to the superintendent? Are they recommending to the board? It's just not abundantly clear. So you'll get a recommendation that is spelled out. So that was policy. Now practice. We've got a little bit of work to do. Turns out the book flamer, we don't know how it made it into the library. That's just a miss on our part. It very well could have been included in a collection of books that we ordered, and the invoice or whatever, you know, the bill just says group of books from said publisher. It could have been donated, but frankly, we just don't know. So I've directed our library team to add a field or help us understand what a field would look like in Destiny, that the library software system, so we can get a purchase order number for our materials. It's good practice anyway, better accounting anyway, and it'll just help make sure that we have a better idea and a complete idea of the flow of dollar resources into instructional materials. For those criteria, I am bringing our equity audit team together for at least one more time this year. The Trapper, I couldn't believe, you know, when you said the AP test had already passed. Years go by pretty quickly. But when we bring this equity audit team together again, I'm gonna ask them to help us look for criteria. And it's frankly gonna balance my dilemma of needing representation and where does that representation push into argumentative? Where does it push into things that aren't allowing students to choose for themselves, but pushing into things that that seem to be biased on them, that sit in the bias. So we'll bring criteria back. I think finally, what helps the most are the 4 steps I put out in our newsletter. So if someone says to you, I'm not sure what's going on, or I'm mad about what's going on, or I'm concerned about what's going on, I'd like to ask, they find out what's going on first by talking to their own student, looking at the work. If every single parent in this district, every single night when they talk to their kids, would say, well, I guess it's 3 questions. What are you working on? What is your teacher trying to get you to learn? And how are you gonna tell the teacher, demonstrate to the teacher that you've learned it? If we could have that conversation every single night at the dinner table, we'd be doing pretty good. But, you know, when I was a young teacher with no kids, I thought, boy, how simple it is to talk to your kids. Now I got a 14-year-old. I had to, watching. I had to hide the dishes and bring them down from the room from his mother. We celebrated Mother's Day this weekend. Because I didn't want his mom to have such a bad day seeing dinner for 2 weeks ago. So I'm more empathetic when a parent now says, I don't know what my kid's doing, and I've asked them 20 times. But talk to the teachers. We have amazing teachers who will demonstrate to you. And we just got out of this online learning, whatever we called it, where we do need to embrace some online classroom. We do need to embrace this idea of sort of a repository of materials that are easily accessed online. Like, kind of need to get with the early 2000s on some of the access there. So we have improvements there. But if that doesn't work, right, you talk to your kid, you talk to the teacher, talk to your administrator. See what's going on in the school. How can we kind of solve this in a school issue? It's just so much more productive than trying to take the 30,000 foot governance. It is more productive than working within the school. And again, we have a policy. So finally then, if all that doesn't work, we can't be afraid of our own policies. And one of our policies is the materials complaint process. That needs to be there to benefit us. So if that's the case, encourage community members to utilize that process, and we'd gladly go through it. But finally, the most important thing is the people. And I know I'm taking a lot of time here, but the most important thing is the people, and I'll continue to meet with anyone that asks. I think all educators can and should do that, and it certainly is sort of within my personality. I think we should introduce a concept called coffee chat or, listening sessions, engage more of those types of things. Love to have some board members come with me on that. I think we can build towards some community dialogue. Well, I'll just share with you I don't know, probably without exaggerating, 15 or 20 community members, adults I've spoken to in the last month. Boy, the discussion quickly gets beyond reading, writing, and math, and this quickly gets into really the divisions that are present throughout this nation and probably throughout the world. Our school will lean into that dialogue with this community, but we can't do it alone. It's gonna take everyone in this community deciding we're gonna work together in the interest of our kids and the interest of this community to figure out a way to support each other, knowing that we are going through the most challenging times probably this world has ever seen. Turns out, despite your so far faith in me, that's gonna take a lot of time. It's gonna take a lot of energy, it's gonna take a lot of effort. So I need to be clear with the board that the primary focus of my team will be delivering on the promises of our strategic plan. That's where I have to keep our focus. We heard from Ms. Salter last meeting, 70% of our incoming first graders can't read to an acceptable level. That means they can't read 10 words in a minute. We know the impacts of COVID are real. We know the impacts have delayed learning to the point, and let me talk about that reading for a minute. It turns out we actually know how to improve that in a very rapid way. We can do it, but I need my team focused on it. Same with math. Same with creating more experience for students to apply their learning in a variety of settings. In our strategic plan, we talk about access to our campuses. We talk about needing to provide a safe and welcoming environment for all. That includes the safe physical environment for all, access physically safe. And unfortunately, and catch myself losing my temper a little bit here, but we also have to protect this campus from too many people accessing it. We have to prevent the access on this campus because it turns out that a dangerous and deadly situation is certainly a viable possibility on any school campus, and it turns out sounds like anywhere in the world. So we need to do work to ensure some people don't have access to this campus, and all of that is in our strategic plan. We'll see measurables against that. Right now, I promise you, I'm not done. Thanks for listening. We have we have satisfaction surveys out right now to the staff. We have satisfaction surveys out to our students and satisfaction surveys out to our parents and caregivers. As soon as those come in, we'll finalize what we're calling a scorecard. So we'll deliver a scorecard to our strategic plan to you in June, so that you'll see how we're going to quantify the processes of our strategic plan back to our community, back to our board, back to our community, and most importantly, back to our students. So just to reiterate, happy Teacher Appreciation Week, remembering that every person on campus is a teacher. I'm excited to get us going, and Mr. Pence, I think you're up. Mr. Pence has a presentation we'll show you on screen. All right, so I think we came a few months ago talking about some high school stuff, and so just circling back.
I think, it's been mentioned several times tonight, but the, first thing is just thank you, Staff Appreciation Week. Want to thank the entire district, and just speaking for the high school, it takes a lot of people to make things happen at the high school for us to be successful, for all those students. So just when we talk about, just like Ryan said, Teacher Appreciation Week, Staff Appreciation Week, we're talking about everybody. So there's a couple of administrators, myself, and Mr. Buchanan. We have 21 certified staff, 2 school counselors. It's been great having a second school counselor this year. 3 secretaries, 4 IAs, a support staff, 2 custodians, 1 school cook. And I also don't want to leave out people like bus drivers, all of our parent volunteers. I counted up, we had over 70 coaches for all of our different clubs and activities. 15 different club advisors, of course, our maintenance staff, the technology part of the district. It's a lot, right, for our small little town. And a ton of those, we talk about the 70 coaches, a lot of volunteers. Okay, they're just into it for kids and helping everybody have a great experience in high school. I also noticed as I'm looking through kind of our staff list, we have over 90% of our staff helping with something other than during the school day. So that's being an advisor of a club, coaching a program, chipping in wherever they're needed, whether that's taking tickets, chaperoning dances, we just had our prom, like Trapper was talking about. So again, just for all the things that they do during the school day, outside of the school day, thank you, thank you, thank you for all of our staff. Really appreciate it. And that kind of segues into, Mr. Buchanan is here, if he wants to stand up here. And maybe if you want to, maybe come on up here real quick, Mr. Buchanan. Maybe even have it in front of the.
Me in this? Oh, yeah, you're the chairman, chairperson of the board, of the board, hold on. This guy? Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Perfect, thanks, Ben, so much, and congratulations.
So just want to highlight real quickly, Mr. Buchanan, last month, we got an award of Oregon Athletic Director Association called the Cindy Simmons Leadership Award. Cindy Simmons was an athletic administrator in Oregon for, I hate to say, like over 40 years. Close to 50 maybe, but all over the place, and just an absolutely phenomenal person who was a huge leader in athletics, and especially female athletics in Oregon. And so Mr. Buchanan got this award, and he was nominated for this award by the people that he works with. He didn't nominate himself, I assure you, because people recognize Ben, not just here in Banks, but across the state, for the work that he does, the leadership he does in serving committees. Of course, we're out there in the spotlight a little bit. We've had some success the last several years. Mr. Buchanan, I think this is his 5th year as athletic director. We had that trifecta where they won the football, the basketball, and the baseball state championships. Last year, the golf team won the state championship. This year, girls basketball winning their first state championship. Just an unprecedented amount of success under Ben's leadership, and we're so happy with having him here at Banks and at Banks High School. As everybody exits tonight, if you head out the hallway and look at the class pictures, you'll see Mr. Buchanan's senior photo. He's been at Banks for a long time, including as a student, as an athlete. In his time here at Banks, he was involved in a lot of different things. Now,
Football with that, so.
Travis played football, if he remembers, very cool player, but just amazing award. He was recognized for the 1A, 2A, 3A schools. That's 182 schools. He was recognized. So congratulations, Ben, and thank you for all he does for our school and all of our programs. And a little bit more recognition, Ms. Passador will come up here too.
How about your picture?
It's like.
One. Perfect, thank you so much. Thanks.
So talking about Christina a little bit, she started in the private sector with some graphic design work and things like that, and entered into education, working at some small schools down on the coast, and came up here to Banks about 5 years ago, right? Okay. And since she's been here in our CTE or career technical programs, has done a tremendous job working alongside Mr. Eggleston, a lot of the designs that you guys see, the water bottles, the coffee cups, all the stuff they're making. They're filming games, they're broadcasting live sporting events that's like super high quality. Better than like some college productions, and it's just amazing for our little small school. In this little program that started just a few years ago, the advances they've made. And it's exciting for me to just pop into that classroom and see the kids' excitement for making something. Right, and so it's kind of flipping that, with sitting back and learning and doing work, and like they are producing work, they are making things that they are proud of. You know, just looking at your nameplates, we start seeing that stuff everywhere, and it's the students are the core of that. And so she has a great way of just invigorating students and getting them excited about, of course, they have to learn how to use some of this equipment and things like that, but to see what they can create and then share with others has been really amazing. So Christina was recognized by the Forest Grove News Times as the amazing educator. This award goes to educators across the state of Oregon or Pampa Media, all these places for the kind of the area that they serve. So out of all the teachers, elementary through high school, talking about some of Hillsborough, all of Banks, Forest Grove, Gaston, kind of this whole area, Christina is the educator recognized this year. So really want to commend her and thank her for all of her work and what she does for Banks High School. Also, just a couple of highlights, Trapper shared a few of those with you guys. We just have a lot going on at the high school this time of year. Our baseball team, last I checked, they're ranked second in the state. They lost one league game to Neocani. I checked on my phone a little bit ago in the meeting. They're winning 9-0 in the bottom of the seventh. So we got a good feeling that they're going to beat Neocani, be league champs, going to state, things like that. Baseball's having a great year. Softball is, I think, third in league, looking like they're going to qualify for state. The track team has had an amazing year, ton of really good individual athletes, and I think as a team, we could do really well. We got students breaking school records. We have students ranked right up there at the top of the state. Absolutely great job. Okay, so the coaches are here. And so and they've lucked out with the weather for as track meets go. It's been great to be there. Golf, our girls golf team's competing at their state qualifier today and tomorrow. So hopefully we hear good news from them, sending some kiddos to state. Boys golf finished up their season and did not qualify for state, but also had a great year. So lots going on in sports. Equestrian is going to state this year. Our OSET team over in Redmond this week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have several kids who have qualified in that, and the club or that group is almost tripled in size this year. So we're really excited about OSET. We have a brand new girls flag football team. That's a new program that Ben and one of Mr. Buchanan and Mr. Carrier coaching. They're undefeated. They have their culminating event, or almost like the championship game this weekend. And they're having a blast. They got some uniforms donated and some really cool gear, and the girls are having a great time with that. Mark your calendars for May 19th to the 21st. Our drama program is putting on a production of James and the Giant Peach. That's on Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. FFA also has grown, almost doubled in size, and we've had a ton of kids go to different state competitions. They have a bunch of new banners hanging in their classroom this year. Really proud of those kids. And we have a brand new club this year called Tabletop Role Play Games. There's some kids, we always encourage them, if we don't offer something that you're interested in, bring something to us and let's get it started and get something you're engaged in. And actually, I mentioned earlier, it takes a lot of people to make this happen. Our school cook wanted to be the advisor of this club. And so they meet in the library once a week and they're playing games in the library. I popped in there, we had almost 20 kids in there the other day. So they're having a great time with that. Crapper mentioned the puppy day. I was like, what? We're bringing a bunch of puppies? Like, how, wait, what? But it was great. We had somebody who had just had a litter of puppies. They brought in these really cute chocolate labs and black labs. And it was amazing to see the kids' response to that. You know, since COVID, we're seeing that there's maybe not a lot of thoughtfulness about others in certain times. So watching these kids when they first came in, the puppies, the other bounce off the wall and play it. And the kids were super excited. They're like pushing each other out of the way to get in line and gets to play with the puppies first. A couple groups later, the puppies are asleep and kind of they're worn out. And the kids were that way, they kind of walked in quietly, like, we didn't have to say anything, they just noticed, like, oh, so. Watching people respond, so it's great to include some animals in that, and we did have to clean up a few spills and messes and fiddle and whatnot. But it was great, and I've seen kids smile at that event that I hadn't seen smile all year. And so it was really, really great that they brought that idea forward and trying to improve student voice and ideas. I think they have a lot of ideas how to make school better. And if we can encourage that and listen to them, I think that's great. We had prom on Saturday. It was a nice event, well attended. I think almost 175 students attended that. We're seeing more and more students from other schools coming to our proms. I think it's social media, they're finding people, but Grace and Bob and Annie Nevis were our prom king queen, and we did the tally and did the vote. It was so close. I've never seen it that close. Like all three kids got a ton of votes. Just a great group of seniors in the prom court. I think everybody had a really nice time. They did a great job planning that. Put on a very nice event. And then I'll just mention graduation is Friday, June 2nd at Kelly Field. And I want to make a note that we have 14 valedictorians this year. Really. So to be a valedictorian, that means they have to earn an honors diploma, which means they have to take an extra year of math, extra year of science, 60 hours community service, 3 AP or honors courses, and have a 4.0 or higher. So 14 students, that's almost twice as many as we've ever had in my time here. So really impressive group, this graduating class. We're looking at about 84 graduates this year. And we met last week and I told them they had 19 days of high school left. Now we're down to about 17. So it's going quick. Telling them to keep their foot on the gas pedal here. No coasting, crap. You got to keep it going here. And I just want to mention, we went through a pretty lengthy accreditation process this year. Every few years, we do this 4 or 5 years. They just extended it to now 5 years. We had a group called Cognia that we work with, and that started out with parent, student, and staff surveys. And part of that is we also have to write a bunch of narratives, and we have to explain a lot of things in our processes, policies, all that sort of stuff. They're looking at the standards of culture of learning, leadership of learning, engagement of learning, and growth in learning. And they give us a whole rating. I'll share the entire report with you guys. But I wanted to just share some of the highlights. One of the things that we noticed between the parent, the student, and the staff surveys, the 3 things that came up on all 3 of those instances we scored highest on is people feel welcome, they feel safe, and they feel respected at Banks High School. So I think that's a great foundation to build everything upon. That the kids feel that way, the community and parents feel that way, and the staff feel that way. So really proud of that and the culture here at Banks High School. Along those lines, we have some things to work on. And so they do have a few areas of improvement. They never say you're doing a great job, just keep doing it, everything's great. But I think actually the things that they put together tie in really nicely to the strategic plan that we built. And so the 3 things that they believe we need to work on is increasing the time dedicated to instructional best practices, instructional rounds, and the evaluation process to improve instruction and advanced learning. That kind of got set to the wayside when we were doing a lot of distance learning, and we were just trying to get Chromebooks and hotspots and get stuff up on Canvas. And now it's time as we're getting back to normal, really looking at our instructional practices. And we have a lot in there in the strategic plan about that, about working with our staff. Also creating a process to regularly collect and analyze data on learner-centered activities in the classroom. They noted a pretty consistent response from students about wanting more say or wanting more individual kind of opportunities for what they need in the classroom, rather than just kind of that regimented plan or units that you would see in some classes. And then the third thing is implement a documented process to promote action research to evaluate instructional practices to improve instruction and enhance student engagement. So again, more research and data and making sure we're using best practices to continue to move forward and improve. Last little plug here, we have the Braves Run coming up on May 20th. That's the same weekend as James and the Jackets. You can do both that day. It's summer for everybody. They got a 5K, 10K, a run or a walk, or run walk. I can't run that far, I'd walk some, but they also have a fun run for the kids where they race around the track 1 lap. We need lots of people there. Somebody's got to beat Mr. Lynn against Daughter one of these years. But this is gonna be a great deal. The theme this year is the superhero stride. So we're looking for lots of people. If you don't feel like running or walking, we also need volunteers to hold stop signs, make sure nobody gets run over when they cross the crosswalk and whatnot. So that's gonna be a great time coming up soon. Fun way to kind of end the year. And then the last thing I'll say, in a lot of ways, I hate social media, but we really try to do a lot of updates on social media, whether it's our Instagram, our Facebook, or our YouTube page. We have those where we're trying to post all the great stuff. A lot of the stuff that Ms. Passport has done over the years is up on the YouTube channel, highlighting student events, student achievements, things like that, and keeping people posted and updated. So we have those different accounts out there too. It's a great way, rather than twice a year at the board meeting. So thank you guys. Thanks for all you do, and thanks for.
Okay. Moving on to the following, consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? I move to the consent agenda. Second, all in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Move on to, discussion items. None. Action items. I have your first action item, was pretty quick. The ESD, the Northwest Regional ESD, has a vacancy on their board, and the way they fill their vacancy is accept applications and ask for an election of all board members in their district, right, which includes us. They had one candidate submit an application. Their information is in your packet. But it takes a action on your part for us to submit our, essentially a vote, the board vote in support of that candidate, so, yeah, so, is there a recommendation, yeah, all right, so I move to endorse, Dr. Doug Doherty as presented to fill the full-term vacancy of NWRESD Zone 2 to begin July 1st, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Ben and I might tag team this next one, all capital improvement for our campus needs to be approved by the board. We have an application from a community member to donate materials and labor to do various improvements to our softball facility over phases. Ben, feel free to jump in, but I know it's dugout, updating.
I don't get it, look at the document that I provided, that,
Gentleman by the name of Mark Brown, came in my office, never met the guy before, about 3 weeks ago, and says, hey, I got some granddaughters coming through the program, and these facilities really need an upgrade, and he's kind of in a position where he would like to do some upgrades to our softball facilities, and if you look at our dugouts, they're in pretty bad shape. And so phase one was basically to kind of remodel the varsity dugouts. They're cinder block, but there's a lot of wood siding, and he wants to put a new roof on them, and helmet cubbies and new benches inside, and kind of a fence up front of each of the dugouts. And then phase two would be basically on field 3, which is the closest to us, remodeling those dugouts as well. So this is at no cost to the district. He's providing all materials, donations from Par Lumber and his own business, and all labor is going to be donated. So yeah, so it's something that's, I think, is needed. And the facilities really could use it, because it's not, you know, we have our own baseball field that we don't have to share. But softball shares it with youth softball, and it gets used a ton. And so it's a lot of wear and tear there, and I think it would really benefit not only our high school programs, but our youth softball programs as well. So yeah, so I'm just hoping that as a board, we can see the benefit in this, and so we can give him the okay to kind of get started on this.
So you're proposing this as an action item today?
It is an action item, we can ask questions again.
So Ben, we talked about this, and my concern, as you know, was your conversation. Possibility of all of his hard work being disrupted
Mhm.
in the near future. Did you have that conversation?
Yes, I did.
And what was his reaction to that?
He wanted me to send him kind of the plans of what that would look like. And he's ready to roll. I told him, I said, I really don't know, Mark, if this is gonna pan out in the future. And this is a plan that we had, I don't know how many years ago, Will, quite a while. And so I guess I'm not real optimistic that we're gonna be shoving that field 60 feet towards Trellis Way. So I think we'd be, short-sighted to kind of turn something like this down when we can make that improvement. Because I just don't know if that's ever gonna
As
happen.
long as you express that to him.
Oh, yeah, I did.
That's.
Yeah.
As long as you know that you're going in with.
And I think communication is paramount then, because we just don't want to make anybody mad. Anybody that's generous enough to donate time and materials for the benefit of our youth, we don't want to put them in a situation where like, oh, a couple years down, we're going to tear it all down and rip it up.
Right.
And then you get that and like, you get frustrated.
Yeah.
So as long as that communication has been had and they understand, thank you so much. We'll salvage any material we can if we end up moving it. No, and again, who knows when.
Right.
But the thought is that better utilizes our campus space. So I'm personally for it. My daughter played softball for a number of years on those fields and any help they can get.
Please convey our sincerest thanks.
Do we make a motion for this, or do we?
Yeah, there's a sample, like, if you would like,
And my group.
or on your printout.
Okay, I move that the board of directors approves the softball capital improvement plan as described in the project application.
All in favor?
And yes, please.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. That's wonderful. Thanks for the contribution.
Mr. Buchanan, you're still up. This is regarding the cooperative agreement with Vernonia School District and Boys Town.
Yeah.
Maybe just a quick, summary and.
Well, this wouldn't be the first time we've been into a co-op with Vernonia. They don't offer soccer, and so anytime that they have a player or two, boys or girls that want to play soccer, we feel like, hey, it's a great opportunity for these kids to come down the road, as long as they're willing to make that trip, every day, to give them an opportunity to play. It does, present some challenges to us as well, because we are 3A now, but when you enter into a co-op, you now combine your ADM for both schools. And so you're no longer going to be a 3A school, you'll be playing in a 4A league. Okay, so that would probably bump our boys into the WAPA league for soccer with Seaside, Tillamook, Astoria, St. Helens, Scappoose. So the girls, we don't have any interest from anybody from Vernonia, so they would stay as District 1 and girls soccer in 3A. So it's a little bit different, but like I said, historically we have entertained, the co-op with Vernonia just to get us to come down here and play. Any questions?
My only concern here is that when my daughter was playing softball, the folks at Seaside were accusing us of recruiting because we were taking their business down there in their field. So I don't know if this leads any weight to their argument of recruiting, but just sorry.
Yeah, that's
That's why I know.
giving Vernonia an opportunity, send the kids there, yeah. Yeah.
So we approved this before.
Yes.
Last
Yeah.
year. Was it different because we were in a different category last year?
We were 4A last year.
So it didn't change when we took.
No, when we were 4A, we were a small 4A school, and so adding this Vernonia student population, we were still within the 4A range.
Okay, so last year didn't change, this year it
It was,
was back up to four.
yeah. Just in boys soccer.
Just in boys soccer.
Yeah.
Are there drawbacks to that? Yeah. Okay.
Do I have a motion?
Seems that.
3A boys soccer is more competitive. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all for this.
Just make a motion, then have a chance.
I move that the board of directors approve the cooperative agreement with the Verdun School District with regards to boys soccer.
A second.
All in favor?
Good.
Thanks, man, you're good now.
Thank you, Ben.
You have one more?
No, but in closing, I asked Molly to add an agenda item to closing before board comments. And it's just, simply, I just thought it'd be a good idea to talk about some dates for the record and for you all. May 18th, I believe is a week from Thursday. Week from Thursday. No one knows the date.
It's 10 days.
So 10 days from now. We have our budget committee meeting, and so we will present the budget to the entire budget committee, including yourselves, and did very well documented that. There may be a need to have a brief special board meeting called just prior to that, to approve the contract, depending on BA application, of course. And then just next board meeting, in June 12th, just want to get down on the record.
What time will the budget meeting start?
Molly, can you check out, I believe it's 6.
Yeah.
And the next board meeting would be a budget hearing as well.
Yeah, thank you, Dustin. We'll have a budget hearing at the very beginning of the next board meeting, which is the part of itself. Okay. Turn over to you to, more comments.
Okay, take the board comments, will we on start off?
Yeah, I actually have a few comments. Honestly, this is the kind of meeting that makes a board member want to be a board member, as far as I'm concerned. Starting with the teacher appreciation and ending, maybe it sounds silly, but with Jacob's comments on the accreditation. You know, I've been part of or in leadership roles with organizations all my life, you know, from the US Navy to businesses, profit and nonprofit, and of course, the school board. And a couple of realizations that come through pretty quick. Number one, the obvious one, it's about the people. But continuing on that, you know, there's really nothing me or anybody else in any kind of leadership role can do unless they have the right people who want to do what they want to do, care about what it is, what the vision and mission are, and pursue it. And I am just, why I'm so excited about this district is because that's what we have. And the teachers, the administrators, the school bus drivers, the cooks, everybody in this district, this is the gem of this community. As far as I'm concerned, it's the gem of Western Washington County. And, you know, the teachers are pretty folks appreciation today, but it just goes down the line. I mean, you know, Ben and Christina are examples. You ask Ben and Christina, and they'll both tell you, I'm sure, that they have so much respect and appreciation for their peers that are with them, that are also focused on the students. To Brian's comment about contract review, I mean, this is the way it should be done. And everybody on the teachers and the support people's side has brought their best information and their best reason and their best intent to collaborate. And it's been a pleasure to work with them. It just goes on, and we just I don't know if we appreciate what we have. And so I want to make sure that we do in everything here in this school district. And you've heard me comment about this before, but because it kind of flies under the radar, you don't think about it all the time. But when you have things like rewards, like Christina and Ben saw, the events that Jacob outlined today, believe it or not, talking about accreditation is something that a lot of principals would shove under the rug, because they didn't want anybody to know what was said bad about them, even if there were good things said. I don't think Jacob would hesitate. And of course, he's so proud of his tech staff, which is an indication of that. So, you know, everything that went on here, both the input about improvements that we need, about things that are going well, that we're doing well, from the choir to the comments here on the board. It's an amazing experience here. And you were all part of that too. And I'm just proud to be part of it. I'm thankful that I get to be part of it and get to represent you. I just couldn't My life couldn't be worth more than being able to serve these people and these people in the lives of our kids. And so I basically just want to say thank you.
Well, Chris.
Beautiful spirit of gratitude. Thank you. Yeah, well, first, let me just say, I feel like I learned a really valuable lesson a month ago, at the last board meeting, right? And I shared this with several people, and I feel like I'm hoping that I've grown a lot. So first, I want to say, Katie, thank you so much for speaking tonight and for bringing that vulnerability. That was not fun for you to stand up and say those things. And we felt your embarrassment and your shame from our community in that horrible experience that you were in. I'm sorry that you were put in that. And from what Catherine shared last month as well, that we will do better, right? We can do better. And these are the really important things that we need to look at in our community. These are the things that we need to look at with our equity team, right? And our equity board. These are the inclusive environments that we need to create, right? Safety, of course, as well, inclusive and also safety. But I feel like I learned so much, and I thank you for bringing that tonight, and because that was not fair, that you even had to do that. But I felt like a failure myself last month because I felt like there were so many other things that happened during public comments that I lost sight of the one thing that we as a board can really control, right? And that's like making those adjustments and actually doing what we can in the district, right? And Brian, just to what you said in your beautiful speech tonight, your superintendent report, just that there are so many big issues that we as a board, like we can't tackle people's religious and political values. Like we're not here to change those, right? And I know that people feel very deeply and feel really moved by these big, worldly changes, but at the district level, right? Our responsibility is to make sure that our kids get a wonderful education, feel safe, included, and that they belong in their schools, as Jacob shared, that this is what we need for our kids, right? So I just want to say that I'm learning to not get, misguided and misdirected by the big political things out there that we don't have control over, right? And to just really stay focused on the important things. So thank you so much for sharing that tonight. And Staff Appreciation Week, again, this is an amazing district to be a part of and to serve. It's incredible. So thank you to all of our administrators, teachers, athletic directors, all of our everybody, bus drivers, our cooks who run awesome athletic or outdoor after school clubs. It's such a wonderful community to be a part of. The other thing I wanted to say too is that I feel really grateful to have been able to be on this board for the last 2 years and to learn from all of you. This is not an easy role. We just usually are looked at as like horrible people, and we're not people. But we're trying to do the best we can, right, for our community and to support our kids. And to support our community in general. So I have learned from each and every one of you, and I hope that we get the opportunity for our board to continue and do the great work that we're doing. I just had my mind blown at our earlier board work session, talking about facilities and holy good Lord, been here 2 years and I still don't know what I'm doing, but I'm learning. So I just hope we get to continue in this vein because it's just an honor to work with each and every one of you. And thank you guys. This is an awesome board. Hope we get to continue to do it. And let's end it there. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah. Thank you both, Phil and Chris, for that. I mean, in kind of the spirit of kind of thanking everybody and being grateful, Ben and Christina, those awards are so well deserved. In fact, Ben, you and I have talked about this before. When you decided to go into kind of the vice principal role, I was like, oh no. Because like my kids learn so much from you, and you were such a great educator, and I really appreciated that. Everything you did with that AP human geography class opened so many kids' minds. It was really wonderful, and I thank you for that. Christina, I love working with you and the crew, coming to see you guys, and everything you guys do, all the basketball games, football games, everything that you do in addition to kind of your regular job. It's amazing, and the gifts that you're giving to these kids is really awesome. Congrats to us hiring a new middle school principal. That's wonderful. I look forward to meeting Caitlin. That'll be really exciting new change and moving forward again. And Leslie and I got to go to the parents meeting over at the elementary school a couple weeks ago and kind of sit with Sue and her crew.
And that was really awesome to like get to know everybody, and really kind of understand, you know, what your challenges are. Not enough people helping out is one of the big things, but we really appreciate all the work that you guys do. Really look forward to, yeah, definitely. And any updates you want to bring to the board, we would really appreciate that, especially in times where you need volunteers and stuff like that. That'd be really awesome. So anyway, I really can't thank working with you guys enough as well. This is truly an amazing, I heard we had just absolutely the best middle school principal applicants, and I think it's a tribute to really what was going on, not only in our schools, but in this community. So thank you for all coming tonight, and Katie, that was really awesome. Thank you. And Dan, I know I'm gonna see this, and I really appreciate what you said as well.
Thank you, Dan. Leslie?
Well, I guess I'm not going to have to speak as long as I thought I was going to. They covered it just about all. I had the privilege of going over to the elementary school last month, and boy, was it humming. And I went into fourth grade, and a little girl gave me, Mrs. Harson had the kids make bots, and they were supposed to give them away. And so little Emily gave me a bot, and I keep it in my coat pocket. And whenever I think of that, I have really, really good feelings. And I thought, wow, you know, that it's more than the academics that we're teaching. We're teaching our children how to live life. So, and anyway, you know, my love for elementary. But all of our kids, can you imagine 14 valedictorians? We must be doing something, right? But I really feel we are blessed to live in this community. I knew the first time I drove through Banks, I knew in my heart, this is where I wanted to live. And I think with all of us working together, we can hang in there and make it really great. I think coming out of COVID, yeah, we have some little things, but we are going forward and doing well. I just really have faith that we're all gonna just keep going here in our community, and I appreciate all of you coming. We need you. We need you to be our eyes and ears of what's going on out there. If there's anything that we can do as a board, we will. We have limited things that we can do, but we will be there with you. But anyway, I appreciate you coming, and boy, wasn't it great to hear the choir. I'll tell you, that just made it for me, because I was sad that I missed that concert. And then when I talked to Brian about it, he said, oh, they're coming. So anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for being here.
Lastly, and as you guys have probably recognized, during elections, there's a time of reflection. And that's just not for candidates who are running, but it's also for individual board members. And one of the things Brian has sent out was about the Brave experience. And what does that mean? One of the things that has grabbed my attention when my daughter was going through the school, high school, was audience members, parents, kids yelling in rhythm, "We are Banks Braves." And those words, "We are Banks Braves," and the Brave experience, and what does that mean? So one of the things that came out last month was about the flame movement, and all of that has surprised us as board members, that the book was in the middle school. What was not stated at that time was that the book was checked out on February 1st. The next day, a parent contacted the school district. The administration took that book out, asked for the book back, took it back, and put it in their office. So in 2 days, a book that should not have been on the shelf was removed from the shelf and set into the office for review. What didn't get acknowledged in that was the parent who listened to their kid And then took the appropriate action to talk to the administration to remove the book out of this. My mind goes back to the great experience. What is that? See something, say something, and the administration took action immediately. Secondly, last week we had a track meet down at Chilliwack. 6 hours of parents being in farm country. I can't tell you how many parents I saw down there supporting their kids. And to our middle school track coach, who about on the 10th or 11th 100-meter race of the girls' track athletes, we had one Banks athlete left, running by themselves. And there's Kendall running across the track, running to race with her athlete, knowing that the only way you get a personal record is by really racing with somebody and against somebody. They come back to what does the brave experience mean? Supporting every kid, no matter what situation they find themselves in. It's all you need. Lastly, last week, we had a situation happen at the high school that by all accounts would have embarrassed not only the individuals that participated in that, but the high school, this community. We had one student who took action by recognizing the situation in front of them, to assess the information, to understand what needs to take place by contacting the administration. And the administration took immediate reaction to that. That prevented complete embarrassment of the school district, and I would say even the community. Given the political nature that is out there, social media, that student took enormous. I mean, just, it's amazing that the forethought to understand what they were seeing and the actions that they took. I come back to what does it mean to be the brave experience? It is that we are a community, we try to protect the community. Every single child deserves an education and to be supported. And I'm very proud to be on the board. I'm proud of working with each of these individuals and the perspectives that they have. Brian, I can't tell you how lucky we are for you to be here and the direction that you're having. I'm thankful for that we are able to get such a qualified middle school teacher to allow our principal to pursue what she was really looking to pursue. So just everybody, please continue to be engaged. And with that, we'll just go ahead and adjourn. Thank you so much.